Well, good Monday morning. We had our first freezing temperature officially at the airport yesterday morning, and now we're talking about a big warm up. I told you not to rule out the warm weather. We've got 70s, maybe even an 80 this week. It'd be one of the latest we've seen. Only about one in every 4 years do we see an 80-degree reading as late as what we're possibly expecting. We're talking about the hole in the Antarctic atmosphere and also some stats on those California wildfires as well. Some pretty amazing stats here in a bad way with the California wildfires. I really encourage people to follow Jeff Berardelli. He's a CBS national meteorologist who does a lot of stories, important stories on climate change. Follow him at WeatherProf on Twitter, and of course watch his segments. But he has a graph here that's looking at the top 20 largest fires in California history. First of all, 4 of them only have been before the year 2000 in an entire 68-year period. 16 of the 20 largest fires have been in just the last 2 decades. And the number of acres burned, this is really incredible here. Just this year, we've burned 2.3 million acres in California, more than those top fires in that entire 68-year period, and more than even the decade before, or 2 decades before. So just some incredible stuff out of California. Bad news there. Of course, the fires are continuing. There is some hope, though, of potential rainfall here in the future that might at least dampen that fire season that we've been seeing particularly severe this year. We've reached an annual milestone in Antarctica. Normally the lowest ozone, which is in the stratosphere, is reached sometime in September. It's the end of the winter in Antarctica, very beginning of the spring, when the jet stream is the strongest. So just like we get a polar vortex over North America, that circle of jet stream, they get the same thing in Antarctica, and this causes seasonal variation. So what happens is basically it acts like a wall and isolates the air, upper atmosphere air over Antarctica, so that concentration of ozone can get to a minimum. And ozone is just 3 oxygen atoms without getting into the full atmospheric chemistry process. But this is a look at the jet stream right now. You can see it circumnavigating Antarctica, so you get that seasonal variation. But we may have reached the lowest in 14 years, if not ever recorded in particular over Antarctica. And it's probably more to do with the weather this year, a particularly strong polar vortex that has allowed that minimum to be reached here. But some pretty incredible stuff. The latest Antarctic ozone sonde on Thursday down to almost 0 at 15 to 20 kilometers above the ground. So that is a very low point here. Interesting to know that last year we actually had one of the best years for ozone. The hole was not as bad as some previous years, and the trend has been improving over Antarctica for that ozone hole, as it's a great example of countries getting together and saying we want to fix this and getting rid of the pollutants that were causing the ozone holes over the planet. But particularly bad year this year, again, probably because of a particularly strong polar vortex there. Well, we don't really have a polar vortex yet in North America or the Northern Hemisphere just yet. It develops this time of year. We have had some bouts of cool air, of course, the last few days. And in particular, we finally reached freezing at the MSP airport, which is the official Twin Cities observation. I know many of you have reached it probably already. Some of you probably haven't yet, but the airport reaching that 32-degree mark, and that is but still 166-degree growing season. April 21st was the last freezing temperature at the airport, and so that's about average when we look at the 30-year average, 1981 to 2010, but officially ending the growing season for us. And now we're talking about a big warm-up. So we kick off that warm-up today with temperatures that'll be near 70, should be into the low 70s across southern Minnesota, so that is looking very nice there. And then as we head into tomorrow, we're going to see highs into the low to mid 70s across the central and southern part of the state. A little cooler as we head into Wednesday, 60s, Thursday as well. But then look at the temperatures soar here on Friday to the low 80s across southern Minnesota, 70s potentially all the way up to the international border. So some very warm temperatures. Now, in the past, we'd call this the fairly insensitive Indian summer. I prefer to call it summer in fall now, because once we've reached those freezing temperatures, we do tend to see a big swing in those temperatures in October. The trend is downward, but we still get some 80s, but only about 1 in 4 years do we reach 80 degrees this late in the season. Friday is October 9th, and only a handful of times in the last 30 years have we seen an 80 that late or later. In case you're wondering, the latest we've ever hit 80 in the Twin Cities, That was Halloween of 1950, so we've never done it in November. Hey, maybe this is our year. The other remarkable thing is a extreme lack of rainfall here. It was a dry September, of course, and there is literally no rain in sight here this is through Sunday. We're maybe gonna see some showers in northern Minnesota. This is the European model. If we put on the American model, it's really the same scenario. The Canadian model, painting the same brush, maybe a couple tenths of an inch of rain in northern Minnesota. So it is gonna be pretty dry. Keep watering your lawns, even though they're not growing that fast, and especially your trees, because they need that water in the roots before winter. We did have ample rainfall for the summer, of course, but then all of a sudden somebody turned off the spigot here in the month of September, and so far for the month of October. But a very warm week, again, just a slight variation in temperatures, a little cooler, 60s Wednesday, Thursday, it's still near normal, but then back to those very warm readings through the weekend. So enjoy it. We are getting some pretty decent weather here for October with lots of sun.